सहना ववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Om. May He protect us both. May we both enjoy together. May we both exert together. May our studies become brilliant. May we not become disputatious and hate each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to the classes of Tattva Bodha. Tattva Bodha, the essence. We are talking about the highest reality. The textbook sets its parameters on definitions. Definitions are very straightforward and simple. Naturally, it is a textbook, and in the olden times they used to just read the sentences and move on. But since these times are different, nobody is properly introduced to the subject of Vedanta, the Advaita philosophy. That is the reason we are getting into a little bit of explanation of each and every concept. So those people who think, though, but it's just definition book, so we should just go for definition and move on, we would not be able to understand much. That is the reason a little bit of explanation is given after each concepts, especially nowadays where their concepts are not heard properly. We just know a little bit about Vedanta. I just heard that in South India there is a Ravana temple, there is a Duryodhana temple. So we have no idea whom to construct the temples also for. These characters Ravana and Duryodhana were written by the great masters for a specific purpose which represents or manifestation of evil is maximum, and if we start making temples, we have no idea what we are doing. So knowledge always starts with a very simple format. When there was once upon a time a great master, and he wanted to spread the knowledge of Vedanta everywhere. And he heard that there are these three people who are extremely spiritual. But they don't know much, but they are very spiritual. So, and they are sitting on top of a mountain top. He asked, where are they? Where are they? So in the village they said they are shepherds. They have taken their flock and they have gone there on the top of the mountain. They just sit there, wait until the cows graze or something, and then they come back. So this sannyasi, the great man, went there and said that I heard you are very spiritual. Three simple people sitting in dhoti like this, I said, no, we are not spiritual, sir. We are just simple people. And somehow the villagers have come to this notion that we are spiritual. We are just simple. Acha. Tell me, what is the prayer you do? He said, prayer. No, don't worry. I am not come to judge you. I just want to know what kind of a prayer you are. So they look at each other and say, okay. And they close their eyes. They join their hands and said, you are three, we are three, take care. And they opened their eyes. So the sannyasi looked at them and says, this is the prayer? Yeah. You are three, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, or Father, Ghost and the Holy Spirit. We are three, take care. This is not a prayer. How can God listen to this prayer? This is not a sanctioned prayer by us. This is not a prayer. There has to be a proper prayer, it has to be a format. And the format has to be particular. I'll teach you, okay? So they are very excited. Yeah, please teach me. And this prayer was in Hindi because the sannyasi was from India. So he started, हे भगवान मुझे दुनिया की सेवा का वरदान दो, दुखियों का दुख मिटा सकूं मैं, ऐसी शक्ति महान दो, जो आंसू से भीग रहे हो उन्हें हंसी की छांव दो, बिना सहारे भटक रहे जो उनको सुख की छांव दो, हे भगवान मुझे तुम अपनी दया दृष्टि और भक्ति दो, सदा बुराई से लड़ पाऊं जीवन में यह शक्ति दो. They said, yeah, and they repeated one by one. So, okay, fine. He says, done, okay, I am leaving. And then the sannyasi went. He said, nah, sannyasi was happy that, okay, I have taught them something valuable now and they can communicate with God better. He went down, he sat on the boat and he wanted to go to the other side. When the boat was going right in between that river, suddenly he heard sound, pachak, 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 somebody. He looked back and one of the villagers, the thinnest of all, the shepherd, he was coming running towards him on water. On water he was coming running and he said, Guruji, sorry, see we are illiterate people so we couldn't get it. What was that second line you said? We don't remember. And the sannyasi looked at that guy, he is standing on water and he's saying, what is that second line of the prayer? Sannyasi said, no, whatever you are praying is good. You continue what you are doing. In other parlance, management levels, it is said, keep it simple, silly. KISS. Keep it simple, silly. Keep it very simple. Everything. What is the simplest of all? I know the world. Forget about religion, forget about technology, technical aspects or jargons of the language of Sanskrit. The world is there. Yes. Interaction with the world is what life is. Yes. You can't avoid that. Whether you are in the Himalayas or a deep recesses of the forest or in the city, interaction with the world is 100% there. Can't avoid it. Knowledge always flows from the known to the unknown. This is the basic structure of Vedanta. So what do I know? I know the world. Look around whether you know the world. And what is interacting with this world? What is interacting with this technology, with these aspects? My own personality. Then come back to the personality. Who am I? This is a physical body. We have done this, right? This is the physical body and it has got these two parts of sense organs of perception and sense organs of action. I am summarizing the whole thing. So sense organs of perception, eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin, and sense organs of action, hands, legs, mouth, reproductive organs and anus. These are the 10 sense organs which we have, with which we interact with the world. I perceive the world with the 5 sense organs of perception, which is called Jnanendriya, and whatever reactions are supposed to be given out back to the world is done by the sense organs of action, Karmendriya. What gives the reaction is this beautiful attitude of within a faculty called the mind and the intellect. We did this very greatly last class when we were doing the subtle body. So gross body is the physical body. That which runs the physical body is the subtle body. Mind and intellect. And mind, indiscriminate thought flow towards emotions. The whole life in Vedanta, even if you are not reached at the highest level, even if we understand what is my mind, what is my intellect, and what are their job profiles, life becomes easier. So mind is an indiscriminate thought flow. It is full of emotions, it's full of impulses, likes, dislikes, mood swings, All this is the mind. It's reactive by nature. Intellect is that which is supposed to judge the mind, which is supposed to pitch up to a higher goal, a higher direction for the mind to follow. It's supposed to be an adult which is educating the mind, which is the child, to move towards a better life, the quality of the life and not the quantity per se. So that is the intellect. So we have done that. Subtle body we have done. Next verse after subtle body, here it is sense organs of perception. We have already done this, so I am not going to do this. Ears, skin, eyes, tongue, nose. Now all these sense organs, every aspect of our life, the great rishis have divinized everything. So everything is attributed to some god. So even if the furniture is good in the house, they say there must be some Vishwakarma who is doing this. Vishwakarma is the interior designer of the gods. So every time we are referring to some god, so the speech is given by some god, the eyes are given by some god, the hands are given by some god, the legs are given. These are details given to sanctify each and every aspect of one's life. Wherever the mind goes, there the great rishis have planted gods from India. It is not that you have to think God, because the mind keeps on going everywhere. So wherever, so mind went to wealth, they planted Mother Lakshmi. Mind went to knowledge, I want to pursue knowledge, I want to gain more knowledge about what Vedanta is. They put it as Saraswati. So everywhere they have divinized it. So this is what it is talking about. Vayu, Surya, Varuna. Even the next verse, the sense organs of action, the same thing. Tongue, the personification of Agni, hands, personification of Indra, legs, personification of Vishnu. These are just names given of different gods to make everybody understand that everything in your life is divinized. When everything in life is divinized, life becomes holy, absolutely holy, because there is nothing in the mind now which can entertain anything negative about the world. Whatever happens, it's okay. This happened, maybe some reason, I don't know, a bigger picture, smaller picture, this is happening and I get hurt, so it's okay, fine. Bigger picture is always there. Always think about what benefits are going to come. Never think about what losses are. So an intelligent person goes through, therefore everything is divinized. There is a divinity that shapes our ends. There is a power. I don't know what power, I don't know how the power. People say it is my own past karma, somebody else's karma. Can somebody's karma get intermingled in my karma? Is my karma this life, past life, or 100 back life? All theories. There is some power, and I have complete faith in it. And these powers are moved by certain laws, and these laws I need to function. So when I move through these laws, life becomes easier. I just have to understand the laws. Law of attachment, law of detachment, law of pursuing a higher value in life, law of speaking the truth, certain laws, little bit, and just follow them and let the laws take its own course. There was a man who was a great bhakta of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva was sitting on top of Kailasa. Don't start asking Lord Kailasa. On Kailasa there are so many people who went and Shiva was not there, and don't get into all that. These are stories cultivated so that you understand the values for it. It's like a story of Panchatantra. So Shiva was there, Parvati was there by the side, Mrs. Shiva, and both of them were looking down, and Parvati looked at that man and said, that man seems to be your great bhakta. He said, yeah, he is the best. So he is best, so he is just living in a small kutia. We should give him something. Na? Shiva says, it's not very advisable to try it. He is happy as it is. It's okay. No, we'll give now. Let's go now. Chalo. So, okay, chalo, let's go. Both of them came down, and as soon as this man, old man, okay, thin person, a small kutia, just a small window by the side, one earthen pot of water, and nothing else is there in the house. It's absolutely black. And he is sitting there, and he is wearing a particular dhoti. There are no clothes hanging around, and that dhoti is torn. Okay, so he is stitching that dhoti. It's a torn dhoti, so he is stitching that dhoti. Parvati looked at Shiva. Shiva said, "We have come to bless you because you are a great bhakta and you keep on saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, you keep on remembering us. So, what would you like to have?" He took their blessings, he looked around everywhere, and then he said, "I don't want anything, sir. I'm perfectly all right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming." Parvati Mata said, "No, we have come from a long distance. You have to ask because you are the greatest bhakta." He did not know what to do. He did not know what to ask. And he could not even not ask because it may hurt the visitors, Shiva and Parvati. So he saw his dhoti, which is torn, and he saw the thread and the needle, what he's doing, and then he remembered. He said, "Yes, my lord, I want to ask you one thing." Shiva said, "Yes, ask, what is it?" He said, "Whenever I am stitching anything, let the thread follow the needle. Whenever I am stitching anything, let the thread follow the needle. Let the thread follow the needle indicates let the laws function as they are functioning. I don't want to put any spanner in the law's work. There should not be any arrogation from my point saying that this is what I want to do. Whatever is done, a complete attitude of surrender." So, with these studies, that tendency will come of understanding nature in all its glory. Everywhere you see the beauty, everything happens for a reason. There has to be. And then you move on with that. If you don't have faith in that law, then you start questioning everything. This should not happen. There are so many corrupt people who are happy. So are you sure the law of karma functions? You have started questioning the law. And once you start questioning, you will not get the answer. Because the mind will seek other reasons of saying, no, this law does not work. Just for one sake. To make my life easier so that I can break laws. What do you understand about Ramayana? When you use the word Ramayana, the story, what do you understand? People don't understand the nature of Rama. People don't understand the nature of Sita. People don't understand the nature of Lakshmana or of Bharata or Kaushalya for that matter, or even Lakshmana's wife. They don't understand. What they understand why did Rama take Agni Pariksha? Why did he do? We look out for negatives so that we can point negatives in a personality like Rama. Because once I get concluded that this was a negative and he should not have done, she should not have done, then I get an escape route that even these people can do it. When they can do wrong, who am I? Thoda to chalta hai. And we look for loopholes. Let the thread follow the needle. So we have done the sense organs of action, sense organs of perception, that is the physical body. We have done the subtle body. We move on to the causal body. Karana Shariram Kim. Anivarya cha. What is the causal body? That which cannot be explained, which is beginningless, which is avidya, ignorance itself, the sole cause of the two bodies, gross and subtle, ignorant of self, free from duality, is the causal body. So, three bodies I told you we have, right? Gross body, the physical body, subtle body, mind and intellect, and the third body, causal body. So what is the causal body? The definition of causal body. Causal body, in other words, are called vasanas. Vasanas are considered to be the essence of our personality, the seed personality. We'll be explaining that. That which cannot be explained. That which cannot. The first, that which cannot be explained. And what am I doing? I am trying to explain it. There are people who give lectures of 1 hour, 1.5 hours on how beautiful silence is. To explain silence, you have to use some words. But as soon as you use some words, you have broken the silence. So what is vasanas? Which cannot be explained. How it can be explained? I will tell you now how it can't be explained. Whatever I do in the world is an action. That action is preceded, come out of a desire to do. I want to do this and therefore I do it, right? So desire precedes action. So in that chronology of every action of mine, the first is the manifestation of that particular action. Action comes from a desire to do something. The desire is preceded by a thought. I want to do it. And then it becomes a desire, and then it becomes an action. Right? So the first thing that comes is, I want to do it. Get up in the morning, I have to study. Oh, today it's Sunday. Okay, so we have to have a Tattva Bodha class. The first thought, and then the thought propels into a desire, and the desire forms and manifested action. From where has this thought come? I don't know. No idea, sir. It just comes. Thought just comes. No. Thought comes, but it should. How come specific thoughts come to specific people? Like all of you who are attending Tattva Bodha classes, Sunday the thought comes that I want to attend Tattva Bodha class, and you are sitting before the monitor on a mobile phone and listening, if you are lucky enough, or you will listen to the recording. In your own house, there may be so many people who may not be attuned to these lectures. Not their fault, it's just that they are not attuned to it at present. Their thought must be something else. I want to do this. Today we'll make something interesting. Today is Sunday, being Sunday, we'll make some interesting lunch, okay? So I'm going and working in the kitchen. Now the lady or the man works into the kitchen. Now the thought started is different there, and your thought is different. Each thought in each individual is alag. Correct? From where has that thought come? We know only the thought. It must have come somewhere. Therefore, the first, it cannot be explained. We can't explain from where the thought has come, which is beginningless. When did ignorance start? Somebody asked this very beautiful question to another person. So, when did you start becoming ignorant? Actually, I became ignorant 2 years back. You can't give a date for that. When the ignorance started? Anadi. It never is beginningless, because there is nothing called ignorance. There is only lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge by degrees is called knowledge and ignorance. The word given is ignorance. Ignorance is lack of knowledge. He is ignorant of history. Until he studies that, ignorance goes away. So it's a lack, so it's beginningless. We don't know when that ignorance started. So it is beginningless, which is ignorance itself, the sole cause of the two bodies, gross and subtle. Ignorance itself means ignorance cannot be different. Yeah, we'll come to that. Sole cause of the two bodies, gross and subtle. So what is the cause of the subtle body, mind and intellect? My own vasanas. What is the cause of the gross body? My own subtle intellect. So it's like a telescope. You have seen the telescope outside, when you watch it, outside goes into the inside, and then like selfie stick. Even your selfie sticks have that. It goes inside, and then becomes this. So the first part, the topmost part, is the gross body that is enveloped in the subtle body, and the subtle body comes from the causal body. Causal body alone, be careful, is responsible for these two bodies, subtle body and gross body. Why this is so important is, throughout Vedanta, one thing they have made certain: don't blame external forces. Long time back, I met a teacher. We were supposed to meet the teacher, myself and a colleague of mine, and the appointment for the teacher was 7 o'clock. Since it was a long distance, 30-40 kilometers distance, we reached the teacher's place at 7:15 in the evening. That is 15 minutes late. He looked at us and said that, "Oh, you are come. When was your appointment?" "Sir, 7 o'clock. It's 7:15. You are late by 15 minutes. Immediately the colleague of mine said, "There was huge traffic, therefore we are late." And the first statement that master gave, the first statement I heard from anybody, especially a class of this master, he said, "Don't blame your inner incompetence towards outward happenings. Don't blame your inner incompetence towards outer happenings." They don't blame anybody outside. So all the spiritual people, they don't say this happened because of you. I am angry because you did. I fell into trouble because of you. They never blame anybody in the world, because when you blame somebody in the world, you are bound to be agitated for life. Simple. Because you can't control them. They have their own mind and intellect and vasanas, and they have their own ambitions and way of going about it. You can't blame the world for things. So I am depressed because this did not happen. I am agitated because that did not happen. No, you can't do that. So the first thing Vedanta removes is, don't blame anybody around you for your own agitation. And we humans are superbly intelligent. We are the most evolved species. Why the evolution is so great is, when I am agitated and say, it's because of you that happened. Because of you, because of that friend, I am getting agitated. Because of this person, I am getting stressed. And Vedanta comes and says, don't point a finger outward and say you are responsible. They are not responsible for my agitation. So as soon as I come to know, have this knowledge, okay, so that person whom I was getting angry at, he is not responsible for my agitation. Even she is not responsible for my agitation. What do I do? What do I do? Then intelligently you start pointing yourself. No, you point to God. God has been very partial. He selects and gives doses of love to people. He's been. So first finger is towards the world, relationships. Then the finger is, why did God do this? There also Vedanta comes and says, listen, don't point a finger upward and say God is responsible. God has nothing to do with your life. God gives you the power to do things. It's the motor which makes your mind and intellect and vasanas start. But it is not responsible. That principle is not responsible for anything. For that you have been given free will. Then, as slowly as possible, the finger points back to oneself, then I must have done it. Yes, you have done it. Then the next question comes, because people ask so many questions. So next question comes, but when did I do it? I didn't do anything wrong to get so agitated. Are you don't remember? Do you remember everything? 1 year back, what breakfast you had, do you remember? No, you don't remember. Kuch kiya hoga. No, but I have always prayed to God. I was very God fearing. We didn't do anything wrong to anybody as much as I can remember. इतना दुख फिर भी होना नहीं चाहिए था सर. I don't see itna agitation. I went through hell actually in my family, sir. And I did not do anything wrong like that. I know my life. I know. Then to explain that agitated mind, another theory is given. No, don't worry. It may not be this life. It may be past life also. Pichle life mein you must have done something wrong. You got a mother-in-law like this because you ill-treated her previous life. You have a husband like this because of you have a wife like this, because everything goes back. And the mind is so beautiful. It says only one janma. So how many janmas are there? Another question. And then they say aneka janma. It goes back. Ignorance keeps on going back. That's what he's talking about. Understand, nothing else in the world is responsible for your gross body and your subtle body. So whatever is happening in the physical body, who is responsible? You are responsible. Whatever is happening in my physical body, where there is pain here and there and everywhere, my responsibility. Whatever is happening in my mind and I am getting agitated, my responsibility. Whatever ideas and ideologies I am entertaining in my intellect, fueled by the world and its experiences and people around, and whose my responsibility. So the beauty is, what happens is, when everything is my responsibility, then who's going to bring the change? Understand that. When everything, see, when I am blaming somebody outward, I am giving up my responsibility that I can't change because they are responsible. Now when Vedanta is saying nothing else is responsible for your agitation and stress, then the onus of change comes to only one person, me. And where my change? My own causal body, my own vasanas. Where did the vasanas come? I don't know. I have no idea from where the thought has come, but the thought is there. How do I remove it? Put some new thoughts. When you want to eradicate the past, paint some beautiful present memories. It's as simple as that. So nobody else in the world is blamed for a debacle in my life, an agitation in my life, other than me. A girl was dreaming, a young girl, it must be around 13, 14, and she dreamed, usually they go through these movies and they see an isolated palace somewhere. So she was in an isolated palace and she's looking each and every room, it's dark, and she's slowly going away. Out of nowhere, she hears a loud scream. I don't want to scream, others you will get frightened, but there was a loud scream. She turned back and the door slowly opened, and from that door a figure came floating in. Long nails, full white, half the face cannot be seen, and one half of that eye is dripping with blood. Here big canine is there, and that is also dripping with blood, and she's coming. That apparition is coming. It's floating and coming behind. The girl runs like crazy. She runs from one room to another, but that apparition keeps on coming, laughing, shrinking, making sounds. Ultimately, the girl goes into a particular room and she stands by the wall, and that apparition comes closer. And the more closer it comes, the more frightening it looks. And it takes the hand and it's about to squeeze the girl's neck. And the girl shouts, "Oh my God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?" The apparition stopped, looked at the girl and said, "I don't know. You tell me, it's your dream. Your dream. You tell me what I should do, I'll do accordingly." The dream was her own creation. And once you understand, or once I understand that I am the creator of my own problems, then the solutions also I will only give. For that, I need to use my intellect, which is at present meandering everywhere because the mind has overtaken the intellect. The mind is running based on likes and dislikes. So the first stop, I need to control the likes and dislikes of the mind, discipline the mind, and then raise the level of the intellect so that it starts asking more important, intelligent questions. That's the causal body. Therefore, nothing in the world, nothing else is responsible for my agitation and stress except my causal body. Gross body and subtle body both has come from causal body alone, the sole cause, ignorant of self. It has no idea, causal body or ignorance, vasanas, has no idea what is the self. It's like a person going and asking the sun, "You know, you are shining on earth, but the other side of the earth is fully dark. Can't see at all. Full dark, andhera hai pura." The sun says, "Really?" And then he says, "Where? Show me." And as the sun moves, it's bright there. Wherever the sun goes, the darkness disappears. Both can't exist. So darkness is ignorant of the sunlight. Ignorant. For it, sunlight does not exist. So for an ignorant person, self does not exist. Therefore, they may not be interested in it. You need to have a subtle intellect to even understand, raise yourself to the higher. खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तदबीर से पहले खुदा खुद अपने बंदे से पूछे, बता तेरी रजा क्या है. Make yourself so strong that the Lord should ask you, "What do you want, boss? What do you want? You tell me what do I'll do it for you." And you don't have any list in your hand. You look up to that divine personality and say, "You do for others whatever you are doing. It's perfectly all right. Let the thread follow the needle." So it's free from duality. There is no duality. There is only one. Ignorance is one. Your ignorance, my ignorance, everybody's ignorance is one. There is no difference. Everybody has done Atmahanta. Atmahanta means killed their own self. Like Jesus said, "You have sold me for 30 pieces of silver." We have given up ourselves. We have given up our original identity and we have taken up an artificial identity to live and interact with the world. And we have lost ourselves to such a level that there is no way we can come back. We are all liars. There was a Mahatma, great Mahatma, Tapovan Maharaj. He had a lot of students, around 13-14 students in the Himalayas, Uttarkashi. And each and every student is attributed to giving something, some job is given there, So one job of one of the student was to wash clothes. So he gave a shawl. So in the class he showed the shawl to everybody and said, "Is this the way you wash clothes? How are you going to wash your sins away and your vasanas away if you don't even know how to wash clothes properly?" So the student came and said, "Actually, sir, it was not torn before because the cloth was torn. It was not torn before. I washed it. I know it was not torn. I put it on the shrub to get the sunlight. I don't know what happened, but I did not do it." He said, "Then am I the liar?" He looked at the student, the Maharaj. He said, "Am I the liar?" He said, "No, I am not saying that, but when I washed, sir, the shawl was okay." He didn't say anything. Angrily he went inside. After that, because these students were staying in the ashram, for X amount of years. Whenever that student passed, this Maharaj would sit there on the veranda. There was a slab there. He looked at that student and say, "A liar, a liar, you are a liar, liar, a liar, come here, a liar." And he just went on, the student. The student got so angry. He packed his bag and says, "What nonsense is this? This person is talking about giving up your ego, giving up your renunciation. He is not even about to give up his shawl, which is the torn one already. I washed it and gave it, and still he is attached to the shawl. What is this person going to teach about detachment?" About to leave, one senior student told him, "Listen, whatever the teacher says, they are talking from a different realm. Their ego doesn't come in between. They are talking from a different personality." So he whispered something in his ear. He said, "Okay, I'll do that." Next time when he again went, the teacher sat there and loudly said, "A liar." So the student came there, touched his feet and said, "Yes sir, I am a liar." And that Maharaj was so happy. He said, "That's what I told you. See, we have been living a life that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this intellect, this is the world, and every relationship I'm going through is going to be permanent, and nothing is going to die away, nothing is going to wither away, and I get attached to every aspect of my life and suffer." We are all liars. No duality. Ignorance at the highest level, ignorance at the lowest level, whatever you do, ignorance is the same. There is no difference in ignorance. So no duality in ignorance. That is the causal body. That is the vasanas. So vasanas, the seed personality which makes me function in a particular way, comes out as a manifestation by thought. The thought gets consolidified in this manifestation as the subtle body, mind and intellect, and then further develops into the physical body to act into the world. This is the causal body. Once I understand this is the gross body, this is the subtle body, this is the causal body, then what do you do? Again, remember this, KISS, keep it simple, silly. In our own lives, each one of us learn from our own experiences. Forget what other people's experiences are. In my life, there are 3 phases, and that's what he's talking about. The next one, 3 states of consciousness. Avasthatrayam kim. What are the 3 states of avastha? Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, Avastha. Simple. What are the 3 states of consciousness? The 3 states of consciousness are waking, dream, and deep sleep. We have gone through this, right? All of us. At present, we are awake. How do I know? Actually, I don't. I am assuming you people are awake. With the quality of the class, when it becomes too high, the people can sleep a little. So, people are awake now. And the waking world is there. It's Sunday morning, and then your house, everything is vibrating, and you're moving around. You're looking at the world. You are Mr. So and so. So this is the waking world I am experiencing. After the waking world is gone, if I continue this lecture for perhaps half an hour more, it will become a little heavy perhaps for some people, and you will enter the dream state. Dream state is, you have this feeling. I get this offline classes when we have go through some phases when they look like this. They are not listening. They are neither singing bhajan, they are going somewhere else. They are in their own dream. So they go into a dream level. I go into a dream state. And in my sleep, there also is a state where I don't feel anything. I say, "Please wake me up in half an hour. In half an hour I'll get up. Till then, let me sleep for half an hour." And the person by the side said, "Don't worry, okay, you sleep for half an hour." and I close my eyes. I just about close my eyes, then the other person taps. I say, what is it? Get up, half an hour is over. What? I just slept. Yeah, half an hour is over. Time flies. I don't know how much time, but it flies. And I get up refreshed. These three states, each one goes through. When I am awake and interacting with the world, when I am not awake and not interacting with the outer world, but interacting with the inner world, and third, when I am not awake at all. These are the three states. What are the three states? The three states are waking, dream, deep sleep. Now we will learn the waking state, which we are all awake, right? So we'll just see that. The waking state, Jagrata Avastha ka. What is the waking state? That state where the sense organs of perception like ears, eyes, nose, tongue and skin, etc. perceive the sense objects of sound, color and form, smell, everything, etc. is called the waking state. So what is waking state? When this physical body, five sense organs of perception is interacting with its objects in the world, it is called a waking state. The self, that supreme personality, we have no idea what that is. That is a supreme personality, the divine personality within. The self identifying with the gross body is called Vishwa. So the self, the supreme power functioning through the physical body is called Vishwa. Don't give too much importance to these names, it's all right, okay? Understand what is the waking state. The waking state is where I am awake. When I am awake, I know who I am. Really? Yes. One young prince went to a sannyasi and he said, Maharaj, I want to find out who God is. He says, fair enough. It's a good question. You should know who God is. Everybody should know who God is. But beta, whenever you go to meet a big managing director of a company, in a big company, do you just go to the peon and say, I want to meet the managing director? Will he allow? No. What you should do? You have to give your Parichay Patra, your identity card or your visiting card. So what is your visiting? So he whipped out his visiting card and said this, sir, my name is so and so. Shreyas, my name is Shreyas. Shreyas, okay. Shreyas, but this is a name given by your parents. Yes, sir. So your parents could have given you any name. They gave you Shreyas. No, you didn't get me, beta. I am asking, who are you? Then he said, I am the administrator of this company. I am the administrator of Vijayanagar kingdom. I am giving these names Vijayanagar and all because it is in those books of Ram Tirtha. Vijayanagar. He said, okay, how to explain to you? Sannyasi says, I am asking you who you are. You are giving me all the other details. Being administrator of Vijayanagar is status blessed on you by the society and blessed on you by the pedigree where you are being born. Yes, sir. It's just a position. Tomorrow you may not be the administrator of Vijayanagar, somebody else may be. Yes, sir. See, beta, what I am asking is who are you? Because I need to introduce you to God, you see. He sat there under a tree because everybody wants to sit under a tree because they think everybody can become a Buddha. Most of the Buddhas are roaming around like that. So he also sat under a tree and meditated. And then after a few hours, he came out, bowed beautifully to that sannyasi and says, I am a man. I said, okay. Man is just a category of your species. Man, woman, it's just a category. Who are you? And then he falls at the teacher's feet and says, I don't know. I don't know who I am. Whenever somebody is asking me who I am, I say, this is my name, this is my house, this is my family, this is my kids, this is my father, mother, brother, sister, dog, cat, rat. All these things I keep on saying in reference to what the world knows me. Who are you? I am so and so name. No. I'll give you a secret of who you are. You don't have to sit in meditation. I'll tell you. You at present are awake. A waker. Correct? Facing the waking world. And when your time is up by the gross body, so when we are facing the world, all the three bodies are there. The vasanas, the subtle intellect, subtle body, mind and intellect, and the gross body. So when all the three bodies are there and facing the world, it's called waking world. I am going through the waking world of consciousness at present. I'm interacting with the world. Everything happens in the waking world is broken down by these three famous principles of time, space, and causation. We have a time. The time for Tattva Bodha class is 11. I don't remember the class ever starting at 11:05 or 10:55. We are bound by time. If I need to fly from here to somewhere else, it takes a specific time. So we are bound by time. Space, we are limited by space. This is the place where I can do that. That place is not fit for this. Everything in the world has a cause and an effect. Therefore, it is called cause and effect. Every mango seed will grow up to become a chiku tree. And the chiku tree will have apple seeds. And the apple seeds will fall down. It will grow up into a beautiful bush of motichur ke laddus. It will never happen. It has a definite cause and effect. A mango seed will give only a mango tree. A coconut seed will give a coconut tree. There is a definite cause and effect relationship in the waking state of consciousness. There is the definition time aspect in the waking state of consciousness. There is a definite space aspect in the waking state of consciousness. Therefore, whatever happening in the waking state, because of the definite concretization of time, space and causation, looks extremely real. Since it looks extremely real, each and every happenings, each and every aspect, therefore knowledge is also given in this state only. Knowledge is also given in this state only because I can understand that ignorance is there from this state only. Waking state is considered to be the highest, the manifestation of individual with the world, waking state of consciousness. So I get hurt, it's in the waking state. In fact, my whole life depends on how I relate with this waking state of consciousness. There's only one slight problem. The problem is, when I'm awake, everything is extremely real. But how long does the waking world last? How long does the waking world last? Sir, 12 hours, 15 hours, no, maybe 12 hours, make it 12 hours. 12 hours the waking world lasts, and after that, when the waking world stops, I go to sleep. You see your own experiences. I am interacting with the world, I am interacting with every relationship. I become happy, I become sad, I become joyful, I become sorrowful, I become dignified as a great personality. People put me down as a bad personality. All this honor, dishonor, joy, sorrow, good, bad, everything is related to the waking world of consciousness. What I seem to forget is when I am no more a waker. When I am no more a waker, I enter into some other state. At every point of time, when I am no more a waker, I enter into a different state. And when I go into those different states, something miraculous happens. The waking world and its consciousness disappears completely. I may have a recollection, but it has no impact. The waking world folds itself back and introduces this individual into a new world. And that new world is called the dream state of consciousness. The dream state, Swapna Avastha. If asked, most people will not ask. Therefore, the question answer is written here, if asked. Most people will not ask. They are happy with waking state only. They will keep on crying over everything. They lose their sleep on everything that is happening on the waking state, failing to understand that it is a temporary phenomena. It is no more important than the dream state. In fact, in many of the Shastras, they don't even use the word Jagrat. They just say Swapna. Swapna includes the waking and the dream. Both are similar. Both are extremely similar. The dream state is similar to the waking state. How much, how, and how do you relate with the waking state with respect to your dream state and deep sleep state becomes a little easier to understand when I catch you with a fresher head. Okay, so next class, next Sunday, we'll take up this topic and I'll cover all the three: waking, dream and deep sleep together, so you get the connectivity of it and why we give importance to one and why we should give importance to others. We'll continue this class. I'm shutting it off 2 minutes before only for this reason, that many people may find it too heavy to get into it. It's your own experience, so you don't need to look out about these experiences saying that, no, that is happening in that person's life. No, it's in my life. I wake up in the morning, I do all my rituals throughout the day, I sleep, of course I dream. Everybody dreams. Possible chances I may not remember my dream, but science has proved that everybody dreams. So I have my dreams and I also go through a state where I don't dream and neither I am in the waking state. All these three experiences I am going through every day. Most of the European philosophers have focused only on the waking state and they're trying to solve life problems focusing on one aspect. What is the area of a triangle? If I give this sum to somebody, what is the area of a triangle? I'll give you the length. Length is 15 centimeters. So length is 15 centimeters. Please find me the area of a rectangle. Length into breadth into height. If I'm not wrong, it should be that. Length into breadth into height. Yes, that's the formula. Correct. Length is 15. Yes. Breadth, no figure given. Height, no figure given. Find out what is the area of a circle. You cannot, with 1/3 of an equation, you cannot find out the whole area of that rectangle. Similarly, focusing only one aspect of waking state in my life, I can't focus on what this individuality needs to do in my whole life. To understand what is happening in the waking state, I need to even go through these two beautiful attitudes, states of dream and deep sleep. We'll continue next class. Thank you very much.